I have to remain anonymous. The weight of my actions is too heavy to bear openly. The guilt is too much. It gnaws at me every day, a constant reminder of my mistakes. My family doesn't know I'm writing this. They think everything is fine, but they don't see the turmoil inside me. I need to tell someone. I need to confess. The burden is too great to carry alone, yet I fear their judgment. I destroyed my son's happiness. In my attempt to protect him, I ended up causing him pain. Worse, I might have cost him his child. The consequences of my actions are far-reaching, affecting more than just our relationship. My son Mark was happy. He had a light in his eyes that I hadn't seen in years. He was dating a wonderful woman named Sarah. She brought out the best in him, and they were perfect together. They were talking about marriage, about a future. I was skeptical. I didn't trust easily. My past haunted me. My own father had shattered my trust years ago. His betrayal left scars that never fully healed. He had an affair that tore our family apart. It broke my mother. It broke me. I vowed never to let that happen to my own family, but in my fear, I became the very thing I despised. Now, as I look back, I see the irony. In trying to shield my son from pain, I inflicted it upon him. The shadow of my father's actions loomed over me, and I let it dictate my own. This confession is my attempt to break free from that shadow, to acknowledge my mistakes and perhaps find a way to make amends. I don't know if my son will ever forgive me, but I hope that one day he will understand. This is my story, my truth, and my plea for redemption. Mark brought Sarah home to meet us. It was a momentous occasion, one that every parent anticipates with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She was everything he'd ever described: kind, intelligent, beautiful. She had a warmth that filled the room and a smile that could light up the darkest of days. But I saw shadows where there were none. My mind, clouded by past experiences, couldn't help but search for flaws. I heard whispers of doubt in my head. They grew louder with each passing moment, feeding on my insecurities and fears. My wife, bless her heart, tried to reassure me. She saw the goodness in Sarah, the genuine affection she had for our son. She saw the love in their eyes, a love that was pure and untainted by the cynicism that had taken root in my heart. But I was blind to it. My vision was clouded by the ghosts of my past, the betrayals and disappointments that had left scars on my soul, blinded by my own past. I started interfering. I couldn't stand the thought of Mark going through the same pain I had endured. Subtle comments here and there, little seeds of doubt that I planted, thinking I was protecting him, planting seeds of doubt in Mark's mind. I thought I was being wise, offering him the benefit of my experience. I told him to be careful, to look beyond the surface and see the truth that might be hidden. I reminded him of my own father's betrayal, a story that had shaped my life and my view of the world. I didn't realize the damage I was causing, not then. It was only later, when the seeds of doubt had taken root and grown into a barrier between Mark and Sarah, that I saw the consequences of my actions. One night, Mark confessed that Sarah was pregnant. He was excited, terrified, and every emotion in between. He looked to me for guidance. I should have been there for him. Instead, the echoes of my past were deafening. The fear of history repeating itself consumed me. I made a choice, a horrible, life-altering choice. I told him not to rush into anything. I questioned Sarah's intentions. I even suggested she might be trapping him. My words were poison, dripping into the well of his happiness. It all came to a head a few weeks later. The tension that had been simmering beneath the surface finally erupted, and there was no turning back. Mark and Sarah came to the house. They had been avoiding this moment, but it was inevitable. The air was thick with unspoken words and unresolved issues. Their faces were pale, their eyes red-rimmed. Sarah confronted me. Her voice trembled, but there was a steely resolve in her eyes. She told me I was interfering, that my constant meddling was tearing the family apart. She said I was the one with the problem, not them. She was right, but I was too far gone. I lashed out. I said horrible things, words that cut deep, words that I regret to this day. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I couldn't stop myself. My anger took over. I yelled, my voice echoing through the house. I accused them of things that weren't true, driven by my own insecurities and fears. Things I regret to this day. Mark defended her. He stood up, his face flushed with anger. He couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth. He screamed at me, his voice thick with betrayal and rage. He told me I was destroying everything we had built as a family. He said he hated me. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had never seen him so angry, so hurt. He said he never wanted to see me again. And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving a silence that was louder than any argument. The confrontation had shattered our family, and I was left to pick up the pieces. They left that night. The silence in their wake was deafening. My wife, heartbroken, blamed me for everything. She was right to. He told me Sarah had left him. His voice was hollow. He told me she'd had an abortion. He couldn't bear to bring a child into a world with so much pain. He blamed me. He said it was my fault. He was right. It's been months since that phone call. Months of silence. Months of agonizing guilt. My wife barely speaks to me. I can see the disappointment in her eyes. I try to call Mark to apologize, but he won't answer. I don't blame him. I took everything from him. His happiness, his future, his child. I am a monster of my own making, and I don't know if I can ever forgive myself.